All right, welcome back to the Rabbit Tree. Everyone, hope everyone is having a good day. The next part of this series was being really more about pedigrees. And, we see people offering animals that have pedigree and animals that have no pedigree, and what a pedigree is. A pedigree is basically this sheet of paper I have in front of me. This is an example of a rabbit that we have here. I've got a couple of copies of this, and I'm just using a copy here so I could get rid of a lot of the identifying information and all that good stuff, because we obviously want to, do that. However, this pedigree is for a Holland Lop, and when you look at a pedigree, you should be doing a few things initially, and I know it's a little blurry and it's not wanting to focus very well. But a pedigree should have, the breed up here. It'll have usually the name of the rabbitry it come from. And the other important thing is you'll have a name of the rabbit. You'll have, the color. You'll have its particular ear number. And it's always a good thing to get the weight of the rabbit, which is what the weight is. You won't necessarily have a registration number unless the animal has been registered, or a grand champion number, things like that. You can put in the number of the legs here. You can see on this rabbit here, we have a weight. We don't have the numbers or anything. It doesn't look like it's been registered, but it has 8 legs, meaning it had 8 wins on the show table, whether it be best of breed or best opposite. Depending on the breed will depend on where you can pick up legs. Best of group in Netherlanddorf gives you a leg as well. Best of variety does too. As long as there's enough rabbits presented in the variety, or enough rabbits presented, you can get a leg. You're going to have your rabbit, you're going to have its parents, you're going to have the grandparents, and then over here are all the rabbits that were used to make these rabbits. These would be all great-grandparents. Usually, a standard pedigree is 3 generations. Now, I see people all the time say, well, I've got a pedigreed animal, and that doesn't automatically make the rabbit fantastic. It absolutely doesn't. Excuse me. Oh, sneezing. Allergies up. Okay, just because a rabbit has a pedigree means nothing. It absolutely means nothing. The only thing a pedigree pedigrees are useful because you can look back across the pedigree and see what maybe is lying recessive in an animal that you have, and how it can be best used in any program. So if you have, like for Holland Lops here, we have a Tort, and we have a chestnut, and we got a black rabbit. So this chestnut is carrying self, and we want to know how that rabbit is carrying self. Well, we can look back and see that the parent is a blue. Let me see if I can clean this up just a little bit for you guys to be able to see it. Here, I think we can adjust I may have to take it off of autofocus because it's just not wanting to focus on that part of the pedigree. Hopefully that's a little bit better. And then maybe we can zoom in just a little bit. Try to find that happy medium, but it doesn't like the paper. There we go. We'll try that. Either way, you have, we can see that this is a blue, which is a self, and it was bred to a chestnut. So we got a chestnut that carries black or self blue. Blue is just a dilute of black. So it's okay. This is a great pairing. And the blue came out of a black and a Tort, so this blue carries Tort. This chestnut down here is out of a chestnut and a broken Tort. So you can see how the progression goes, and that is the whole purpose of a pedigree in what they are useful for. Now, a pedigree has its value in that, but that's about it. That is about it. Otherwise, it's just a piece of paper. And that piece of paper is valued based upon particularly where you're getting the animal. If you're getting it from some backyard breeder that's throwing anything and everything together, it's great to be able to see that. But if the rabbit itself is very poor quality animal, it's not going to matter what you do. It's going to import poor quality into your animals. It doesn't matter. So at the end of the day, as far as working with rabbits on a show table and representing them in their respective breed and to the breed standard, quality is everything. Quality of the animal. When we look at the pedigree, I like to see, I don't really care about the weights, but the weights are necessary for branding your rabbit. Getting it registered, you need to have a pedigree that has all the weights filled in, has all the proper date of birth. That's one thing that is also on here. It'll also tell you what if the rabbit is a buck or a doe, and that's really important. A lot of people forget to put in some of this stuff, and it really makes it really hard to grand champion a rabbit, especially if you're missing a lot of information. So it's best to go ahead and make sure that the pedigree looks good, make sure that the pedigree is realistic. And this is why genetics is so important. If you have a black rabbit out of 2 chestnuts, that's plausible. But if you have a black rabbit out of 2, let's say, out of a whole pedigree of nothing but otter, I start to question a little bit. If I have for even more realistic is if you had Siamese sable down here and you had 2 chestnuts. And that's the power of genetics. You can pretty much, it's entirely plausible, but you're going to have 2 different things going on. One rabbit's going to have to carry shaded, and self, or both rabbits will have to carry self. In both rabbits would have to, one would have to carry shaded, one would have to carry ruby-eyed white. And if there is no ruby-eyed white or shaded back in here, the pedigree is probably a fake. Again, pedigrees are useful. They're helpful for determining what's going on in your rabbit, as long as the information within the pedigree is accurate. There's sometimes I see rabbits misclassified. I'll see 2 steel rabbits, the color steel here, and then I'll get a black. Now, it's not a black rabbit. It's a super steel. But a normal person looking at that would not be able to differentiate that. If you're just new to rabbits, maybe you don't know what color you truly have. A color back here somewhere may just be an honest mistake. Got typed in wrong. There's a million different colors. Some programs will actually help you with the genetics, like Evans software, or some of the others like Global will do the same thing. And you just got to find a program that works for you. But a pedigree program, just when you're buying an animal, it's really a useless piece of paper, a waste. It's not worth anything. It is valuable in some circumstances, especially the higher up in the rabbit showing you do. It's kind of important because you want to have that lineage behind it. But for the average person that's just the hobby person that's breeding rabbits, I see people doing this all the time. They don't show. They're not actively show people. They're breeding rabbits and claiming these animals all have pedigrees. And to the typical rabbit pet person looking for an animal, they think that this pedigree is worth gold, and that if it's a pedigreed animal, it's going to be a better animal, and that's not necessarily the case. Always remember, a rabbit, as it sits on the table or how it's built, will be far more important than whatever piece of paper you have behind it. And so I take these things with a grain of salt. They are worth, a lot of times, 90% of the time, they're not worth the paper they're printed on, depending on who you talk to or where the rabbits are coming from. So finding reputable people that know the breed that you're interested in, finding people that are interested in the variety, working, if you're a certain variety, find a breeder that works with that variety heavily. And like for us, I mean, we work in every variety of Netherland dwarfs, so we know the progressions, and it helps. If you're working in blue-eyed white, like we did in the previous video, a blue-eyed white up here with no chocolate or shaded animals in the background is helpful, in kind of getting an idea of what's going on in the rabbit. If you're buying a colored rabbit, such as a chestnut, black, blue, otter, or whatnot, you would actually not want to see any Vienna in the rabbit. And it doesn't matter. I mean, 3 generations is a great concept. I think some of our pedigrees go back 6, 7, 8, 9 generations, because we've been doing them for so long. So we can really look back a long ways and see how we've developed the herd up to the point. So I hope everybody finds that useful as far as what should be on your pedigree and the value of it in being able to determine what's going on as far as the genetics side of it is really, really helpful, as long as it is an accurate piece of paper. So, for instance, we're going to do a little bit of trying to understand what's going on in this black. And so what we're going to do and how we can write the genotype. We have a black rabbit. Now, we can write in what we know about this black rabbit. We know that it is a self. We know that it is black. We know that it is full color. We know that it does not show any dilution, meaning it's not a blue rabbit. A blue rabbit would be 2 lowercase d's, but we don't know if it's carrying it or not in full extension. And that is a black rabbit. That's how we write the genotype for a black rabbit. Now, what we can do is we can go back and we can look in the history. We've got a black Tort in here as a parent. Okay? So a parent for black Tort, and we'll just do this up here. A black Tort is also a self-based animal. It's also black. It's full color. It is capital D for no dilution. And Tort is 2 lowercase e's. That's how we write Torts. Now, this is a parent. So we know that this parent can only transmit one copy, one of each locus point. It can only transmit one allele. So what can we know that it can only transmit a lowercase e, so we can fill in right there, lowercase e for Tort. We know that this black carries Tort based off of this pedigree. Anything else that we can learn from the pedigree? Well, there's not really a whole lot, honestly. We have black Tort. We got blue here. We know that the parent, the chestnut parent to this animal was a chestnut. And we know that it was an agouti And let's just write out chestnut. All right, so we got chestnut right here. Now, what can we tell about that chestnut? Well, the chestnut came out of a self-blue. Now, blue is the same as black, except at this D locus point where we have two lowercase d's showing dilution. And because it had a blue parent, we know that it's a self. So this chestnut has to carry self. And that's how we got a black. This chestnut transmitted self, lowercase a, and the black tort only had lowercase a to transmit. They both transmitted black because we have no indication of chocolate in the pedigree, or it could still be hiding recessively, but it'd be a really long shot. Full color and for both animals, so we don't have any change there. And we know that this chinchilla or this chestnut came out of a blue, so we know that it got a lowercase d. Anything else out of that? Nope, can't really say there's anything else there. So it's useful. We don't know if this black tort carries dilute. There's nothing in the pedigree. If we go back to the pedigree and we look at the parents to these two torts, we have black tort, broken black tort, and one that just says tortoise, which that could be black or blue, but it's probably a black. Given the name, it's brownie. So either way, we don't see any dilute in the history of this black tort. We can't verify if it's hiding recessively there. The only way we could prove that it is breathe it to a blue otter. Opal would be another one that you could breed to find out, but we don't really know. Odds are against it. But when we talk about this animal, it has a 50% chance that this chestnut transmitted lowercase d, but we cannot write it in because we do not know that 100%. The only way we're going to know whether this carries dilute or not is if we breed this black to, again, a blue otter or an opal, and if we get any dilutes out of that combination, and we know that this rabbit carries dilute, and we would fill it in after the fact. The odds are that this is both capital B's, this is both capital C's. In D, we just have to breed test. It's a 50% chance. So that's how we use a pedigree to, build out, looking through the history of the animals, of what could be hiding in there. This blue even carries, let's see, it's out of a black and a tortoise shell, so it's going to be carrying tort as well. This chestnut is bred to a tort as well, so this one's carrying tort. The idea that this chestnut right here is not carrying tort is pretty unlikely. Or rather, it is 50% likely that it's carrying tort. But again, you're not going to know that unless you have this animal and you can breed test it. You're not going to know that. This is the animal that we have, but this is information we can discern from the pedigree, and why pedigrees are important. But at the same time, it doesn't matter if that pedigree is fantastic or not. At the end of the day, it's this rabbit that we own, this rabbit that we have in our program, and what we know about its genotype based off of the parents, what we can guarantee it is. And that helps us use this rabbit for a lot of different things. We can use this rabbit into blacks, we can use this rabbit into torts, and really black can go with a lot of colors. But you're going to produce a lot of blacks. It's going to be the dominant color for yourselves. You can put it into chestnuts and be okay. You can put it into otters and be okay. Other than, I don't really like tort running around in my chestnuts or in my otters, because you create new things like black fox, which is not a showable color in your otter patterned animals. And in a goody, you're going to start producing oranges. And I'll just say this about orange. Orange never represents as well under black as it does chocolate. You can get orange in both black and chocolate, but they always represent better under chocolate. They just have less smut on the animal, and they tend to be a little bit more intense on the color, and they just look better on the show table. So if your breed allows that. So putting in a Tort into a chestnut is not really the best way to go, but you can do it and you'll still get showable colors. But I try to avoid putting Tort into anything in the otter pattern, just because I don't want to create the fox rabbits. And you'd have to have, again, it would take a couple of generations of line breeding to get that to come out. And again, for most breeds, it's not a showable color. I know there's pushing Netherlands right now to get fox as a showable color, but I'm not sure when that's going to be. So again, hope that helps you understand what a pedigree is and the value of what a pedigree can offer you. Again, learn genetics. Go back to the Series 101. Do some practicing in your own barn, especially if you're working in one or two colors. And that way it helps you understand how these need to be done. They need to be filled out correctly with, again, the name of the rabbit, the color, the ear number, and the birthday, how old the rabbit was. And that helps a tremendous amount. Registration numbers, grand champion numbers, the number of legs, you can do that, but it's not going to be the end of the world if you don't have those things. But most importantly, get those things done. Make sure you have your ear numbers and all that good stuff in there to help know what pedigree goes to what animal and how you got to that point. Especially useful for in-house, in your program, because you can really keep track of what all's going on in your rabbitry and how you got to the point where you are and where some of that stuff may have come from. Again, like, subscribe. Hope you find this video interesting. And we're going to get into some more stuff here in the next couple of months with writing genotypes, and we're going to start exploring all the, probably start doing all these self colors first. All of our self patterns, which will be our black, blue, chocolate, and lilac. And then we'll start getting into doing videos on Siamese Sable, Hemi, self chin, and some of these other ones that are kind of a little bit out there. You don't see as much of depending on the breed you're working. So until next time, y'all stay safe, and we'll catch you on the flip side.